Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and this is another edition of No Capes, where I talk about the books that either Ethan doesn't read or he doesn't review along with me here. And mostly that has to do with non-superhero books. Any of you have been watching, of course, you already know that. Okay, first up, I'm going to talk about Fatale number 8. This issue, I enjoyed this issue. It feels like some stuff is starting to come to a header here. There were some interesting ideas that were put forth. The fact that our main character, who's kind of telling this overreaching story, the fact that he met Josephine when he was a very, very little boy, and Josephine whispered in his ear, and the potential that since that point he's been in love with Josephine and just didn't know it, is a pretty awesome idea and pretty powerful. It's just how powerful Josephine is, whether she recognizes she's that powerful, and certainly we get the impression from this that she doesn't really want to be manipulating people like she does and whatnot. It's just sometimes it becomes a necessity she feels for her own existence. One of our main bad guys here, this occultist, we get a slice of his life in it, since having his eyes burned out, basically back in the 40s, maybe it was the 50s, I can't remember which era it was. He's lacking power, true power. He can't quite grasp and talk to the Dark Fathers that he used to before. He knows that Josephine's the key to that, and he is struggling kind of as a fake prophet up to this point. He does sacrifices, and the sacrifices don't work, and that sort of thing. There's a character in here called Susie Scream. She's part of the movie industry, and she has discovered that Josephine seems to have been alive for a very long time. She finds pictures of Josephine in Josephine's house back from like the 1920s and 1930s. So she's off to expose Josephine. Unfortunately, she gets nabbed up by this guy's henchmen, of course. Don't want to be exposed for the whatever murder film, snuff film type thing that they have that's been floating around that she saw initially. Interesting again, it still seems like it takes a very long time for this book to go anywhere. My complaint still is that there isn't enough occultism like they build this book. When this book was originally built, it was supposed to be crime noir kind of a thing with slash H.P. Lovecraft kind of a deal, in some sort, Chthonian or whatever. And it really hasn't been that. I'm thinking at the end of this arc that I'll probably be done picking this up as singles, much to my wife, the disembodied voice, complaints probably. She likes the book. I think it probably reads better in trade than it does in single issues. I have a friend who's been picking up the trades. He's really, really enjoying the book, much more so than I am. And I think it's because it seems like long, dry stretches between issues and what's going on and plot points. And I think if I had it to I could sit down and read it all in one shot, it would be more enjoyable that way. I still like it. I like the art. I like the style of it. Like I said, I wish it had more of the occult. That's why I picked this one up. It has convinced me, though, that I'm going to go back and pick up like some of Brubaker's and Phillips' older work, like Criminal and some of that stuff. I know, shame on me for not having those things. That's my intention, is to go back and pick up some of those things while I wait for the next trade to come out. But I'll keep collecting this until this arc ends, and if the story hasn't ended, then from that point forward, I think I'll pick it up in trades, because I think I'll enjoy it more that way, and it'll be more economical if I pick it up in trades. Because I could pick up the singles and then wait until I have a whole bunch of them and then read them all at once, but I'd rather just get the trade if I'm going to do that. So there's that. Next up, I'm going to talk about The Creep, number 2. Still really enjoying this. There are only 2 more issues left to solve this mystery, if it's going to be solved. The mystery itself is interesting. I still think I have a pretty good idea of kind of exactly what happened to some degree to cause these kids to commit suicide. What's more interesting is our main character here, Axel, and his dealing with his own illness and dealing with the two families of these kids who committed suicide. His relationship with, with one having been a friends in college before his disease took over, and having that relationship and with that woman on the phone, and then he keeps going and meeting and talking to and accidentally talking to the first child who committed suicide, is the best friend of one of his friends from college. And so it is really interesting, and I think it's kind of shoot, I'm losing the words that I wanted. It has it's just interesting. I'm not sure exactly what I want to say about it, because I don't want to give anything away, because this is still new enough that people could go and pick it up if they wanted to. And I'm going to take a break here briefly, because, oh, maybe not. It's raining at my house. I would have done this review outside. Anyway, it's raining. I wasn't going to do it outside. People are trying to talk to me. I'm going to ignore them and go back to this. Get back on my train of thought. Anyway, much enjoyed the book. I think it's an interesting introspective on people and situation and whatnot. It's not really a crime book per se. It's just a people book. It's a comic book telling a story about people, and I enjoy it for that. It's not a bio. Lots of times when you get comic books that have to do with just people living their lives, they tend to be kind of a bio comic of sorts and whatnot, which I like those too. But this doesn't have to do with anybody's actual life, so I just find it interesting. And boy, was that an ugly mess of a review of that book that I do enjoy. Okay, last I'm going to talk about, this is the massive number 5, and this is part 3 of the Black Pacific, Antarctica. Really, really like this issue. We get to learn a lot about this character here, Mary. She is the first mate. We've always kind of hinted that she might be more than what she seems. That, we already kind of got the idea that she's a bit of a badass, jumping out in the little boat and going and, and messing with the Chesnian thieves that were trying to pirate them earlier. In this, she and the only American on the ship, and they kind of treat the American with a little bit of disdain, because America's, the giant, massive, place of excess and consumerism, and probably responsible for a lot of environmental issues and whatnot, or not caring about those issues and stuff. So these two characters, they go to Antarctica. They're going to these secret pump houses that the Russians, I believe, or private scientists, not Russians, private scientists put in that would tap down into these lakes that are there to get massive fresh water. It was supposed to be a scientific project, but in reality, really what it was an emergency reserve that this private company had put there in the off chance that things went really bad and water became a commodity, which it really, really is in here. It's an extreme commodity, that they would be able to go and have fresh water when they needed it. as bad things started to happen, the scientists that ran the place exited the place and pretty much let it abandoned. Somehow Mary knows all that stuff, and they go there to collect this water. And in the process of doing that, somebody else is there. They've got a rad counter. There is some levels of radiation because the holes in the ozone layer are pretty bad there. So the rad count is relatively high if you stay there for a long period of time. But the water's not contaminated. Anyway, when they go to this scientific place, it's high-end luxury. They got their own power source there that's run by geothermal. It's an awesome place. Holy crap, I'm thinking, man, this is where I want to ride out the rest of my life, other than you probably have to leave someplace at some time to get food, but otherwise, this is where I'd hide out. Well, lo and behold, there's some other thieves there that are hiding out. They whack both of these two ladies on the head. Then they try to figure out whether or not one of them is an American or not. The American lies and says she's from Canada. I guess maybe they thought they were going to hold them for ransom. They end up deciding they're going to throw these two women down the well and kill them to get rid of them because they aren't worth anything, and they want to get them out of the way. And this way they have them hidden, so in case anybody else comes, they can deal with them or whatever. So they throw these people down in this well, which of course, the water is freezing cold, but not as freezing as the outside is. And so they, Mary starts swimming down. There's this cable, and she's swimming down, and her American friend basically drowns. She's drowned. And she drags her down. And there's this, car that's halfway down. It's like a trolley that's on this cable. Probably something to do with scientific experiments. Somehow Mary knew this was down there. She swims down to it. She gets inside the thing, pulls her friend inside, hits the pump, pumps the water out so they can breathe. She does mouth-to-mouth on her American friend and brings her back. And they sit there for a while. They sit there for an hour or so. And Mary says, okay, we got to go back up now because our tanks of oxygen are going to run out. We'll swim back up and we'll climb up the cable and we'll get out of this place because more than likely the guys are gone. But the problem is we've only got a few seconds really before we're probably going to freeze to death because, in the water we're fine because the water stays a certain temperature. But as soon as we get out and run from the pump house back to the main house where all the heat is at and their coats and their clothing and all that kind of stuff to get warm is out across the Antarctic, they'll probably freeze to death. But they got to do it. It's their only choice because they're going to die down here. And the American's like, I can't do this. There's no way. And Mary says, don't worry. You'll drown like you did on the way down, and I'll bring you back. I'll save you. Don't worry. And she's like, no, I can't do this. She's like, no, don't worry. You can do this. We will do it. And sure enough, they jump in the water, they pull it up, and the next thing we see is they are at the inside the main building again. She is brought back, the American has been brought back to life, basically. She's all wrapped up and all warm. They're all warm. The people from the Capitol, the ship, are there, to save them. And somehow, Mary knew all this stuff. She knew the access code to get inside the building. She knew a new access code to put on the building to make it resecure, to lock down if somebody else breaks into it. There's a lot about this Mary character that we don't know yet, and we're starting to see pieces of it, and it's really interesting. Now, granted, does this move us any closer to our main plot of trying to find the Massive? No. There's only briefly one message really about the Massive in this, and that's at the very end, the American, when she wakes up, she asks if they've heard anything from the Massive, and of course they tell her no. Is that important? I don't think so. I think that what makes this book interesting is the story about the people and the situations they're in. And in this case, it's more about the person. It's more about Mary and what she brings to this game and whatnot. And I find it very, very interesting. And I love it. I think it's a really interesting, really excellent book. Along the same lines of DMZ and the fact that it's not always about the DMZ and the war that was there when Brian Woods was writing that. It's about the people that are in the situations. And so I dig it. I like it a lot. The new artist that's been working on it, I think he works out fine. Still got the awesome colors by Dave Stewart, who seems to be a master to be able to change his art, his color style depending on what he's working on, whether it be, Batwoman or this. He can completely change the tone. Anyway, that's it for this time around. Like I said, I'm in the car because it's raining off and on, so I'm not I'm out in front of the homestead, but not out in front of the homestead like I normally am. At any rate, I guess I will catch y'all for the next review. Have a good weekend, everybody.
I'm tense and nervous and I can't relax. I can't sleep cause my bed's on fire. Don't touch me,
I'm a real live wire. Psycho killer.
Guess you see